Hi, my name is Autumn Campbell, and this is my presentation for the evidence-based interventions for class ITI 672. So what is social emotional learning? It's a process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply their knowledge, their skills, and their attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. And this is from What is SEL from Castle. So, restorative practices is the program and strategies that I've chosen for my evidence based intervention. So, restorative practices are ways of creating, developing relationships in community and repairing community when harm is done. Restorative practices provide a way of thinking about, talking about, and responding to issues and problems. When successfully integrated throughout the school, culture, and climate, restorative practices create safe and productive learning spaces where students develop social and emotional skills and strong relationships with peers and adults. So there are different types of restorative processes within the restorative practice program and strategies. So restorative conversation, talking circle, peer conference, and classroom practices. Each of these is a way of having the student confront the mistake or the behavior that they have been having and talking about it with others so that everyone gets the chance to feel heard and gets the chance to share their thoughts and ideas on what's happening. The skills that students learn through restorative practices is conflict resolution, relationship building. They learn empathy. They develop consciousness of other people's perspectives. That's through that idea of really sharing and being heard. Practice impulse control, self reflection, community building. They learn relationship skills, and the one that relates most to me and my studies is responsible decision making. So there are 5 different components and guidelines of restorative practice. The first one is to really gain commitment. So when you're going to start a restorative practice program, you really want to introduce it to the administration and the staff and really get them on board. The second thing is to create ownership. Really allow people to learn what restorative practice is, to feel invested in it, and to create that ownership with them. You also want to make a team or a task force that is really going to take care and support those who are learning about this new program. The third thing is to create buy-in. You want to involve the staff in planning for different strategies and how to involve it in the school and in the school culture. And then you really want to be able to support those staff in a good way. The fourth component is to develop a system of practices. So you want to explain and identify restorative practice strategies that will be used at your school. And then it should be used by all of the staff to build community or to create restorative discipline. This doesn't mean that a few people do it. It should be accepted and used by everyone at the school site. And the last thing is to continuously improve. So, to monitor the results and the application of restorative practice strategies, you want to collect data, you want to have observations. These things are really important to make sure that restorative practice is continually happening and continually improving. For the long-term impact of a whole school approach of restorative practice, the views of secondary school teachers, is an article written by the psychology department of Northumbria University in the UK. So it was a qualitative research done by interviewing participants. They had 5 individuals who they refer to as pastoral care, but in USA English, they all would be teachers' aides or people who support teachers. And these teachers work with secondary students. So what they found was that the teachers saw noticeably better communication with their students, better relationships, a better school atmosphere and culture when they implemented things like restorative practice. So the quote that I really enjoy at the end, they write, overall, however, the study suggests that making a shift towards a restorative culture was viewed by participants as providing an opportunity for students to thrive, achieve, and be successful. Another example from this article that I really liked and I wanted to share quickly, which is also included in my slideshow notes. One of the teachers shared how the students had a conflict, and the teacher found out about it later and approached them and said, "Why did you not come to me?" And the students said, "Well, we knew how to solve it on our own." And so that was where they really felt they had achieved great success by using restorative practice at their school sites and in their classrooms. Another article that supported the use of restorative practice. This is a restorative justice in U.S. schools. It was written by Fronius and other authors. It's an updated research review or a meta analysis. So it reviews many different programs and different articles that have done these informal types of research. The issue with restorative practice is because it is such a new idea, a new program. There's a lot of research that's still at its infancy ages, but there is one, and they did a great job of looking into restorative practice, and there's more that are in process as we speak. So, the quote that I really enjoyed from this article was, "These descriptive reports take many forms and include student and faculty testimonials, case by case anecdotes, and the opinions given by community members. Each of these reports provides firsthand accounts of the perceived effectiveness of restorative justice, or as I say, restorative practices in school." So the article reflects on how different schools put their own ideas into restorative practice, but they all stick to the core ideas and philosophies and saw great improvement in their schools. So, a restorative practice team will use assessments like school climate, self assessment. They'll have informal staff, student, parent surveys. They'll collect discipline data. The staff will continue their RP training, and they'll also have formal and informal observations. These are different ways that a restorative practice team can monitor how restorative practice is changing their school. More in restorative practice monitoring. So, data collection, there's 5 forms of it that can be really great to give you an idea of how restorative practice is changing your school. You can collect data on school climate, discipline, training, observations, and surveys. Fidelity, or the ability to commit to a program, will be monitored through the use of collaborated upon agreements. So, at the beginning, when I talked about those guidelines, teachers and staff will create these agreements that everyone agrees upon, and they'll be referred back to if restorative practice ever ceases to improve or teachers stop using those strategies. The demographics for the group of students that I've chosen is middle school. And so, a quote that I really like from the Pennsylvania State University and Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, they said that during adolescence, young people begin articulating their beliefs and values, experimenting with new interests, and expanding their social relationships. At the same time, enhanced cognitive abilities allow them to reflect on themselves and others more deeply, engage in more complex decision making, and critically analyze the impact of their choices. So I think that this quote really applies to middle school students and their responsible decision making, which is my topic of interest. So the demographics for my classroom, for the students that I'll be interacting with, is 7th and 8th graders. The school that I'm at currently has about 800 students. Our teacher to student ratio is about 22 to 1. Our minority enrollment is about 72%. Our suspension rate is 12%, and expulsion rate is 1%. So this can give you a little glimpse of what my students look like and what every day looks like at our school. So the limitations of restorative practice are consistency, external pressures, and student differences. The most important one to me is that every student is unique, and not every student will respond to restorative practice in the same way. And so it's really important for teachers to take that into consideration when they're implementing this into their classroom. Consistency, everyone needs to be continually working on restorative practice, and external pressures, that's something that can affect all teachers and usually does. So these are 3 important limitations. So SEL and restorative practice. It helps students to learn to control themselves. It gives students the opportunity to correct their mistakes, and students are able to reflect on their choices. So, this is why I believe that restorative practice is so important for helping students develop those responsible decision making skills and all of their other SEL competency skills. These are the references and the sources that I used. Thank you for listening.